The rain was coming down sideways, the kind that turns headlights into blurry knives, and I only drove past the Halstead place because I couldn't sleep after the funeral. Graham Halstead was the closest thing I'd had to a big brother since my wife died, and I just needed to see the lights off, the gates closed, something that felt final, but right as my truck rolled up the long curve of that driveway, my beams caught a shape on the concrete and my stomach dropped. A girl, curled like she'd been thrown there, black dress soaked through, hair plastered to her face, lips turning the wrong shade of blue. "No, no, no," I said out loud, already out of the cab, boots splashing through puddles, and when I got close enough to see her, my throat tightened because it was Lena Halstead, Graham's daughter, the one who'd been in that wheelchair since she was a kid, the one everybody whispered about like she wasn't in the room. And she was lying there in the rain with no chair, no blanket, no nothing. "Lena, hey, look at me," I said, hands shaking as I checked her pulse, and her eyes fluttered like she was fighting to stay on this side of the world. She tried to speak, but it came out in broken pieces. "Vera. The tea," she said. Then the front door of that mansion creaked open and warm light spilled out, and standing in it like she owned the weather was Vera Halstead, the stepmom, still pristine in her funeral black, mascara perfect, smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Evan Brooks," she said, like she was amused to see me. "Still hanging around, like a stray." I stared at her, then at Lena, and something in me went cold and steady. "Why is she outside?" Vera gave a little shrug. She wandered. "She's not well." I was about to call someone. Her voice had that sweet poison tone, the kind that makes other people doubt what they're seeing. I looked up at the security camera above the garage, the tiny red light blinking, and I thought, "You're lying. You're just lying in a dress that cost more than my truck." I scooped Lena into my arms, and she weighed nothing, like grief had already been chewing on her for a long time. Vera's smile slipped for half a second. "Put her down," she snapped, then caught herself. "You can't take her. The estate is under my control until the trust is executed." Lena's hand clutched my jacket, weak but desperate, and she whispered, "Don't. Hospital. She has friends there." I didn't even argue, I just carried her to my truck, cranked the heat, and as I buckled her in with my own coat wrapped around her, Vera called after me, louder now, so the cameras could catch it, "If you steal from this family, I'll destroy you, Evan. I'll take your son from you." That's when I knew exactly what game she was playing, and I also knew she had no idea who she just threatened, because I'm not rich, I'm not powerful, I'm not one of those men who gets listened to automatically. I'm just a single dad with a warehouse badge and tired eyes, but I'm also the guy who kept Graham Halstead alive through half his career, and I kept receipts for everything, because that's what you do when people underestimate you. The drive back to my place in Harbor Glen felt like an hour even though it was 20 minutes, Lena drifting in and out, mumbling names, numbers, fragments that sounded like nightmares with a business plan. I called my neighbor Mrs. Dottie Lane on the way. She's retired ER, the kind of woman who can make you sit down with just a look, and when I pulled in, her porch light was already on and she was standing there with blankets like she'd been waiting for this moment her whole life. We got Lena inside, warmed her up, Dottie checked her vitals, then she narrowed her eyes and said the words that made my blood go ice cold, "She's not just cold, Evan. She's been sedated." Lena swallowed hard, fighting tears and dizziness, and finally her voice came clearer, "At the will meeting. Vera offered tea. She said we should talk like family." I thought she was finally being decent. She laughed once, bitter. I should have known better. Lena told us the will reading was supposed to be simple. Graham's attorney announced a last-minute update from 2 weeks ago. 70% of everything to Lena, controlling interest in Halstead Aerotech, the patents, the house and trust, and Vera. Vera got a limited allowance and a deadline. She smiled through the whole thing, Lena whispered, like she'd already planned the next step. The next step was the tea, and after that, Lena remembered waking up on the driveway, no wheelchair, rain slapping her face, Vera standing over her saying, real casual, "Your father ruined everything even in death. But accidents happen, sweetheart. Dottie muttered something under her breath I won't repeat, and I sat there staring at my own hands because I could still hear Graham, months ago, telling me quietly after a board meeting, if something happens to me, Vera did it. And if you ever see Lena alone with her, you get her out, I don't care what it costs. Back then I thought he was stressed, paranoid, billionaire problems. Now it sounded like a warning he'd been choking on for years. My son, Matteo, came down the stairs in his socks, 6 years old, hair sticking up like a dandelion, clutching the same stuffed astronaut he drags everywhere. He stopped when he saw Lena sitting wrapped in blankets, and he didn't do that awkward kid thing where they stare and whisper. He just walked over, held the astronaut out, and said, "He's brave. And he doesn't like mean people." Lena's face cracked, just a little, and tears rolled down like her body finally felt safe enough to let go. That's when I made a decision I didn't want to make, because it meant stepping back into the part of life I'd been trying to outgrow. I said, "Lena, we're not guessing anymore. We're building proof." I used to be Graham's security driver before I took the warehouse job, not because I loved forklifts, but because after my wife died, I needed routine, something that didn't smell like private jets and fake smiles. But I kept my old habit. Documentation. In my shed, I had a lockbox of maintenance logs and photos from the Halstead fleet, because Graham liked things done right and I liked having my back covered. I pulled them out, spread them on my kitchen table, and pointed to the last service on Graham's SUV, 3 days before he died in that freak cliffside crash. "I checked those brakes myself," I said. "They were clean." Lena stared at the photos I took at the impound lot after the accident, the close-up of a cable with a clean cut that didn't belong in any normal failure. "That's sabotage," she said, voice sharper now. Vera said accident like she was ordering dessert. Lena also told me something Vera didn't know. Graham installed hidden cameras after a corporate espionage scare, the footage stored on a private cloud account only he and Lena could access. Vera thought the mansion was her stage, but the stage had been recording. Lena gave me the login, hands trembling as she typed, and I watched clips populate like a dam breaking. Vera meeting a man in the garage, money exchanging hands, Vera rehearsing grief in a mirror like she was practicing for an award, and the big one, Vera pouring something into Lena's teacup, then dragging Lena's wheelchair away while Lena slumped. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth hurt. "We go to the police," I said. Lena grabbed my wrist. "Not the station," she whispered. "Vera sponsors half the town. She's got friends." Then the doorbell rang at 11:47 p.m., and every hair on my arms lifted. I checked the camera and saw a teenage girl soaked in rain, makeup smeared, eyes panicked. "That's Briar," Lena breathed, Vera's daughter. I opened the door halfway. "What do you want?" Briar's voice broke. "I need to talk to her. Please, she's going to die." Lena rolled into view in my desk chair, shoulders squared even though her hands were shaking. Briar fell to her knees right there on my porch. "I helped her," she sobbed. "I held you down when she made you drink. I didn't know about your dad, I swear I didn't, I thought we were just getting rid of you for the money, but after she started laughing, like it was fun. She said the mechanic who fixed the car is already gone. Overdose." Lena didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She just stared at Briar with an emptiness that made me feel sick. "Why come here?" Lena asked. Briar pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "Because I recorded her," she whispered. "I started recording after tonight because I couldn't sleep. She was on speaker with someone saying loose ends and make it look like pills. I think she's coming for you next." We played the audio, and Vera's voice filled my living room like a snake sliding across hardwood, calm, smug, talking about Graham like he was a problem she solved, talking about Lena like she was an inconvenience to be cleaned up. Matteo was on the stairs listening, too young to understand the words but old enough to feel the fear, and he climbed into my lap and held my shirt like he could anchor me. I called the only cop I trusted, Detective Marin Pike. She'd once investigated theft at the warehouse and she didn't care who donated money to what, she cared about facts. She arrived within the hour with 2 units, listened to the recording, watched the cloud footage, and her face turned into stone. "I knew that crash smelled wrong," she said quietly. "But money buys doubt. This buys certainty." She sent a team to secure the mansion footage, got a warrant before sunrise, and told me, "Keep everyone inside. And Evan, if Vera shows up, don't open the door. Let her perform for the camera." Vera arrived at 8:12 a.m. with 2 attorneys and a doctor in a pressed suit carrying a folder like it was holy. She walked up my driveway like she was strolling into a charity brunch, smiling for my door camera. "Good morning, Evan," she called, voice syrupy. "We're here for Lena. She's mentally unstable, delusional, and as her guardian I'm taking her into protective care." The doctor nodded, rehearsed. "False memory syndrome, paranoia, risk to self." I opened the door just enough to stand in the frame, calm, hands visible, like Detective Pike told me. "You don't have guardianship," I said. "And you're not stepping on my property." Vera's smile twitched. "Officers," she said sharply to the patrol cars, "arrest him for kidnapping." That's when Detective Pike stepped forward from the side, holding a warrant and a tablet. "Actually, Vera Langford Halstead," she said, using Vera's maiden name like a slap, "you're under arrest for the murder of Graham Halstead, conspiracy, obstruction, and attempted murder of Lena Halstead." Vera's face did something I'll never forget. Like her skin couldn't decide whether to stay smooth or split. "This is ridiculous," she snapped, and then she saw the tablet screen showing her dragging Lena, pouring the tea, meeting the guy in the garage. Her lawyers started talking over each other. The doctor backed away like he'd suddenly remembered he had a dentist appointment forever. Vera tried one last move, pointing at Lena. "She's incompetent," she hissed. Lena rolled forward, chin lifted, voice steady, "I'm disabled, not stupid. And I'm done being quiet so you can pretend you're a good person." It was the first time I saw the whole street freeze, like the air itself respected what she said. Pike cuffed Vera while Vera screamed about betrayal, about what she deserved, about how she earned that life. And I'll be honest. The satisfying part wasn't the cuffs. It was the silence after, the moment the performance ended and everyone had to face what they'd been enabling. The case exploded. Local news first, then national. Rich widow arrested, tech empire shaken, hidden cameras, attempted guardianship abuse, and that last part hit people hard because it happens more than anyone wants to admit. Lena testified, sharp and clear, and that fake doctor folded so fast it was almost funny, suddenly claiming he was misled. The man from the garage took a plea deal and handed over texts, payments, and a timeline. Vera got life. Not a slap, not probation, life. Lena got her company, but more than that, she got her voice back. She started a foundation for families dealing with disability and legal exploitation, and she offered me a job running operations because, as she put it, "You don't flinch when things get ugly, and you don't treat me like a problem to solve." Mateo told everyone at his school, very proudly, that Miss Lena is the boss of mean people now, and Dottie cried at least 6 times pretending it was allergies. But here's the ending that makes people argue, and I want you to sit with it. Breyer, the stepdaughter who helped drug Lena, got a deal because she came clean, turned over the recording, and testified. She's 17, manipulated, terrified, and still. She held Lena down. After court, she stood outside in the rain again, not dying this time, just lost, and she said, "I don't have anyone now." Lena looked at her for a long time, then told her about a youth program her foundation funds, counseling, school, real help, and Breyer broke down like she'd been holding her breath her whole life. I watched it and I didn't know what to feel, because part of me wanted consequences carved in stone, and part of me remembered Vera didn't just hurt people, she trained them. So I'm asking you, and I genuinely want the comments to get loud about this. If someone participates in cruelty but later helps bring the monster down, do they deserve a second chance, or is that just another way the powerful escape full accountability? And one more question, the one people hate because it's too real. If Lena didn't have money, cameras, and someone willing to believe her, do you think she would have survived that night in the rain, or would the world have shrugged and called it tragedy? Tell me what you think, no sugarcoating, justice or mercy, punishment or rehabilitation, and whether disability bias makes it easier for people to get away with evil. I'll be reading every comment.